So, before we begin today's material, I want to return for a few minutes to the discussion we had after the last lesson because it raised a very serious and very interesting question. The question was basically, what are linguistic rules in fact, in reality? If language is alive, flexible, creative, and shaped by communication, then what does it mean for linguists to talk about rules at all? And if speakers often say things that are perfectly natural and perfectly understandable, even when those things seem not to fit some rule very neatly, then are the rules actually telling us something real about language? Okay? This is exactly the kind of question we should ask, in a course like this, because it goes to the heart of what linguistic analysis is. The first point I want to make is that we need to separate two things: language usage and linguistic analysis. They're related, of course, but they are not the same thing. Language usage is what people actually do when they speak and write. It is rich, varied, context-dependent, emotional, social, and often a little messy, right? Linguistic analysis is what we do afterward when we try to observe patterns in that usage and describe them in a systematic way. So when linguists talk about rules, we usually do not mean rules in the sense of commandments. Not you must say this and you must never say that. We mean something more like regularities or generalizations. We mean patterns that appear often enough and consistently enough that they help us explain how meanings are built, how forms are interpreted, and why some expressions feel neutral. This is the term neutral, while others feel marked or special. This is the term marked, right? Neutral versus marked context. That means a linguistic rule is not the same as a school rule. A school rule may tell you how you're supposed to speak in formal writing. A linguistic rule tries to describe what speakers, in fact, do and what their choices reveal about the structure of the language. Now, Cameron's concern was very reasonable. If two people understand each other perfectly well, even when a sentence seems to stretch a rule, then maybe the rule is not the essence of language after all, right? Have I got you right?
Yeah.
I think that is correct. The rules are not the essence of language. Language is bigger than any set of rules. Communication is bigger than any set of rules. Speakers can often understand unusual, creative, or imperfect utterances without difficulty. That is one of the extraordinary things about human language. But this does not make the rules useless. It just tells us what kind of thing they are. They are not the totality of language. They are tools for describing central tendencies in language. And this is where another distinction becomes important: the difference between communication and classification. In everyday life, what matters first is usually whether communication succeeds. Did the other person understand you or not? Did your utterance do the job? But in linguistics, we often ask a different question. Not just was it understood, but what kind of structure is this? What kind of predicate is this? What is the default meaning here? What makes this form feel ordinary? And what makes that form feel marked? Those are analytical questions, not practical ones.
What do you mean by marked? Like
Marked
unusual?
is, yeah, I mean, no, it's terms neutral versus marked. So we've got sentences, we've got grammatical structures that are mm, like standard, neutral, expected, and we've got marked that in some way are not standard, not expected. So this markedness expresses something else. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yes, a sentence can work perfectly well in communication and still be unusual from the point of view of linguistic classification, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and that is not a contradiction.
Mm.
This also helps us think more carefully about correctness. In ordinary conversation, people often speak as if something is either correct or incorrect, full stop.
Mm.
But linguistically, things are usually more complicated. A sentence can be grammatically possible, but stylistically odd. It can
Mm.
be understandable, but less idiomatic. It
Mm.
can be normal in one dialect and strange in another. It can be acceptable in casual speech, but not in an academic article. It can
Mm.
sound natural to one generation and old-fashioned to another. So when we say that something sounds wrong, that was the question, we really need to ask, wrong in what sense?
Mm.
Structurally impossible, semantically incoherent, unusual for this register, non-standard according to formal written English, less idiomatic than another option. Yeah, these are very different things, all of them.
Mm.
But mind you, all those things make use of this opposition neutral marked. Yeah,
Mm.
okay. But it might be marked in different senses. Okay. Now I'm going to take your example. I rejoice to see you on Saturday. Most speakers of modern conversational English would probably understand this sentence immediately. It is not nonsense. It is
Mm.
not broken beyond recognition, right? But it sounds, correct me if I'm not right, it sounds formal, perhaps old-fashioned, perhaps a little non-native in modern conversation, okay?
Mm.
By contrast, I am looking forward to seeing you on Saturday is much more idiomatic in present-day
Mm.
spoken English. So the first sentence is not best described simply as wrong. It is better described as marked, unusual, or
Mm.
less idiomatic in that context.
Mm.
Right? And that distinction matters. And it is exactly the kind of distinction linguistic analysis should help us make. Okay? The same applies to the diagnostic tests we use in semantics. When we use tests with adverbials, I'm going to tell more about those tests, diagnostic tests,
Mm.
but we had uh, remember, in adverbials and for adverbials. Yeah, tests.
Mhm.
Right. So when we use tests with adverbials, or with different predicate types or anything, those tests are useful. Okay, but they are not magic. And they are not laws that speakers are forced to obey. They are tools. They
Mm.
help us see the default behavior of certain forms. For example, stative, here Quentin comes. For example, English stative predicates usually do not behave like dynamic events. That is why I know the answer is neutral, while I'm knowing the answer sounds rather strange. Yeah? But then we get examples like, I'm loving the sunshine right now. Okay? Does that mean the analysis was wrong? No. It means the speaker is using the form in a slightly different way. The progressive gives the expression a more dynamic, temporary, emotionally vivid interpretation. It turns a stable feeling into a lived ongoing experience. So the rule has not failed. The interesting thing is that the rule helps us notice that something special is happening. And that is often what linguistic analysis is for. Not to eliminate interesting examples, no, but to make them visible. Okay? Sometimes a sentence appears in a context where, according to the default classification, it should not normally appear. Okay? When that happens, it often means the meaning has shifted a little. The context pushes the predicate into a new interpretation. That is not a problem for semantics. That is one of the things semantics is trying to explain. Okay? We also need to remember that speakers do not normally use language by consulting explicit rules in their minds. Okay? People acquire language through, as Cameron mentioned in our discussion, through exposure, imitation, repetition, social interaction, correction, memory, habit, and experience. Right? They hear patterns again and again, and gradually they internalize them. Right? So it is absolutely true that most people speak by following patterns they have absorbed. Yeah? When we teach the patterns, right? Not the rules. Okay, they do not speak by consciously applying grammatical theory. But from that, it does not follow that there are no patterns. Quite the opposite. It means the patterns are real enough to be learned implicitly. What linguists do is try to make those implicit patterns explicit. That is why literature and rhetoric are also relevant here. Authors often break the rules, but usually not randomly. They are able to be creative because there is already a background pattern from which they are departing. A metaphor works because the literal meaning is known. A strange syntactic structure has force because there is a more ordinary structure in the background. And a marked progressive with a stative verb feels expressive because it stands against a more neutral expectation. So creativity does not destroy the system. Creativity depends on the system. And there is one more important point here, and that is the social side of language. Languages have dialects, as we discussed previously, registers, styles, and standard forms. What is normal in casual speech may be avoided in formal prose. What is accepted in one community may sound odd in another. What was once considered an error may, over time, become part of the accepted form. We have language change here. So when people talk about the rules of the language, they often mix together different things: structural regularities, social expectations, school norms, editorial standards, and actual everyday usage. Okay? And a linguist has to keep these apart as much as possible. So I'd like you to take away this. The fact that language is flexible, creative, and sometimes resistant to neat categorization does not show that linguistic analysis is pointless. It shows that linguistic analysis has to be done carefully. It has to remain modest, right? It has to recognize that rules are not absolute commands, but they are descriptive generalizations. And it has to make room for variation, idiomaticity, register, context, meaning shifts, and speaker creativity. Right? Okay, and when we use classifications or diagnostic tests, we are not claiming that language has to be reduced to a few formulas. We're trying to identify stable patterns that help us understand how language works. We also stay aware that real usage is always richer than the model. So when you meet an example that seems to challenge a rule, do not rush into one or two extremes. Do not say immediately the speaker is wrong, okay? But also do not say the rule is useless. Ask instead, what was the rule designed to describe? What is the default pattern here? And what exactly is happening in this example that makes it feel natural or expressive or marked or colloquial or unusual? That is where linguistics becomes, in fact, most interesting. Not when we try to force language into rules, but when we use rules carefully enough to understand both the patterns and the exceptions. Okay? Do I make sense here?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So just to remind you that we started last time with hold this question. Okay, is this the same kind of event or not? כתב את הספר. It was supposed for the end of this language, but last time we didn't get there. Okay, let's see if we have enough time there. And we're discussing lexical aspect versus grammatical aspect here. Lexical aspect is also called Aktionsart after German term. It belongs to the predicate. It's a part of the meaning, okay, not the morphology. And it's got certain characteristics like state versus event versus telic versus italic. That's what we were talking about. Quickly, states and events are our basic terms. Okay, states, no change. Events, dynamic, involves change. Right. We have 3 tests, diagnostic tests for state event distinction. What happened? Question, what happened? You ask what happened. Marek is the bishop. Okay, perfect. What happened? Sam is Irish. Doesn't work. Not eventive. So if what happened question doesn't work, it's not eventive. Progressive test. Progressive selects eventive predicates. So Mary is kissing is eventive. And simple present. In simple present, eventive predicates render habitual meaning, and stative render current fact, in fact. Okay? Right. So we discussed it last time, and we came to this. telic versus atelic events. Wilta, Cameron, can you explain the difference between telic and atelic?
Uh, Telic has a endpoint and atelic does not.
We have several Aktionsart situation types, action types, state, activity, accomplishment, achievement, semi-affective.
Mhm.
Right. And we have features plus or minus dynamic, plus or minus durative, plus or minus telic. Right? State is
Mhm.
durative, but not dynamic and not telic. Activity is plus dynamic, plus durative, but not telic.
Mhm.
Accomplishment plus dynamic, plus durative, plus telic.
Mhm.
Achievement plus dynamic, plus telic, and semi-factive just plus dynamic. Semi-factive is when you reset to initial state. Yeah.
Mhm.
Brief, resettable, countable, italic, no results. And we went to the diagnostic tests. Inadverbials is when we apply inadverbial phrases here. Okay, and it's good. He wrote the letter in 1 hour. Sounds good. When we're doing those diagnostic tests, we apply a certain rule to context, and we're trying to evaluate if that is good example or not, if that sounds good or not, if that is correct or not. And that what it was about correctness of rules. Yeah. So diagnostic tests serve us as tools, not the laws.
On the last slide, can we go to the last slide for a second? Um, I think, okay, he walked in half an hour is wrong. Um, but let's just say we're talking about somebody who, for some reason, people are having a conversation about how long it takes to walk to the store. And someone says,
Mhm.
did he
Right.
walk to the
Right.
store in 45 minutes like that like that fast, and then someone
Yeah.
emphatically says he walked in half an hour, as if like
Right.
he did it even faster than 45 minutes.
Right.
That is stating that he accomplished something within a certain period of time, but
Mhm.
you're also inferring that he you have the change by arriving at a place, but it's not stated in the sentence, but it's still comprehensible because the person being addressed already understands that they don't need to have that stated in order for it to be comprehensible.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was talking. That is exactly what I was talking about. That you walked in half an hour is incorrect, but you found the context where it can be used, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
And when you look at this context that I found where this example can be used, this utterance can be used, you would see that there is a lot of additional meanings. Yeah, a lot of semantic shifts here. It is a marked example.
Mhm. Right. Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. And that is exactly how we make those marked uh, meanings explicit.
So that I guess I'm just, how do you know when it would be marked?
That is what you do when you do linguistic analysis. Yeah, you look at the contexts, you analyze the meaning, you analyze the grammar, you formulate the rules that are expected here, and you compare your context to the rules, and you see uh, the break there, and you explain this break. So you explain the factual meaning, actual meaning of the context. I promised you Greek examples in Latin. I did it. I drew 10 examples, 5 for Greek, 5 for 5 for Latin. So to get at telicity, the property of events that have natural endpoint, built-in completion point, we're going to use a diagnostic tool, the contrast between two types of temporal adverbial. In English, we call them in adverbial, in 3 hours, in a few days, and the for adverbial, for 3 hours, for many years. The key claim is simple. Telic predicates take in adverbials naturally. Okay, so the adverbial measures the time taken to reach the endpoint, and atelic predicates take for adverbials naturally. The adverbial measures an open-ended duration with no endpoint implied. So let's look at the first example from Thucydides. Okay, in ancient Greek, the inadverbial is formed with n followed by a dative of time. Yeah, you do remember I'm not a native ancient Greek speaker. Okay, en oligochrono, en brachei. Okay, when this construction is grammatical and natural, we have strong evidence that the predicate is telic. So, ut en oligochrono, polos eptokosa et de oikumenes ten elegoterian apophaire someta. Okay? Nor shall we take away the freedom of a city inhabited for 700 years in a short time. The Athenians are speaking to the Melians. The verb is aphaireste ten aleoterian, to take away freedom. This is an accomplishment. It is a process that culminates in a definite endpoint. Either the freedom has been taken away or it has not. Because the predicate is telic, an oligochrono sits perfectly naturally. The adverbial measures how long it takes to reach that endpoint. Yeah, and there is this force of the statement. The Athenians are boasting that despite 700 years of Melian freedom, it's self-described with the stative participle oikumenes, which cannot take an adverbial. Yeah, the termination of that freedom will be accomplished in a short time. So this contrast is built into the grammar here. Okay. Ως πόλου άξιος tois elesin apasen and brachei kateste. How he became of great worth to all the Greeks in a short while. Okay, and brachei with the aorist kateste came to be an instantaneous change of state. The time phase measures the delay before the achievement. Okay, both accomplishment and achievements are telic, and both accept the n plus dative construction. But the interpretation differs. With an accomplishment, the adverbial measures the duration of the event as it unfolds towards completion. With an achievement, an instantaneous change of state. The adverbial cannot measure event duration because the event has none. Okay? Instead, it measures the delay before the event. Okay? Lucian is writing about how Herodotus, arriving at Olympia, won immediate acclaim. The verb kateste is an aorist achievement. The transition from unknown to celebrated happened at a point. And Brahe tells us that this point came quickly. So it is the same n plus dative construction, same telic class, but different event structure, and therefore a different reading of the adverbial. Yeah, should be that. Should be that. Yeah, atelic predicates, states and ongoing activities. They resist the n plus dative construction. They use instead the accusative of extent and time without any preposition. Polon chronon or ligon chronon. The adverbial does not point to a terminus. It simply measures how long the state or activity extended. Yeah? Hoi to de doma raet es tiemen kai pinemen emenes ae andros apoi homenoio polon chronon. Yeah, who have pressed upon this house, eating and drinking continually, of a man who has been away for a long time. So, polon chronon is accusative of duration, no preposition. The stative participles apoichomenoio, one who is absent, has no natural endpoint. Duration accumulates. Nothing is completed. Yeah, this one. Apollodorus. Pluton iname polon chronon parat metri ketem mene poias educan ote fagein kokon. Pluto, so that she might not stay with your mother for a long time, gave a pomegranate seed to eat. Ketamine, to stay, remain, is a paradigm state, no inherent terminus. The full adverbial polon chronon is entirely natural here. Yeah, and oligochrono kateminen would be anomalous, right? I mean, if we use an oligochrono here, that would be anomalous. Okay, let's not use the word wrong or incorrect, but anomalous. This example and the example from Odyssey share one thing. Neither the suitor's presence in Odysseus' house nor Persephone's stay with Demeter is an event heading toward a natural conclusion. They are states, true of every moment within the interval, not just a final moment. This is exactly what the subinterval property captures. Every sub-part of the suitor's long occupation is equal an occupation.
Is what, sorry?
Is an occupation. So sub-part of the occupation is an occupation in itself.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Now it's duration. I suggest that you try to run a test on your own reading. Yeah, take any predicate and ask, could I sensibly say an oligochrono? If it sounds natural, the predicate is probably telic. If it sounds strange, because there is nothing to be completed, no endpoint to reach, you are dealing with an atelic predicate.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What is in oligochronon? Al gesanta polonchronon eudokimunta frei nestai. That having suffered pain for a short time, one may rejoice in good repute for a long time. This text is explaining the logic of the flogging contest at Artemis Orta, brief pain, enduring glory. The grammar encodes this. Algesanta, having suffered pain, is a punctual, achievement-like experience. It takes oligon chronon, a short accusative of extent. Eudokimunta, enjoying good repute, is a state with no terminus. It takes polun chronon, an open-ended extent. Okay? Try swapping them.
Are you saying this is another anomalous example?
Xenophon, we have Algesanta. Yeah?
Yeah.
So is
Yes.
Eudokimunta, is that atelic, even though there is an endpoint to a long time?
It's a state with no terminus. Yeah, it's going on. It's got duration. Is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, right.
Right. So,
Because I think that's why it's anomalous, because he's using a for a time, how long, accusative for a
yeah.
long time. But really, I think the implication is forever, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, oligon chronon, you take this you experience that for short time, and pollen chronon, you experience that for long time, long duration.
So Algesanta is anomalous, but Eudokimunta is what expected, is
I think
more.
so, yes.
I see.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, when I drew this example, I kept in mind only the task of switching and see the difference in meaning, switching the adverbials. Yeah, but you're correct here. About italic. All right. Latin. Would you like some Latin? Do we
Yeah,
have
sure.
time? Caesar. Yeah, this one. So, Latin encodes the same aspectual distinction. Yeah. Through its own case system.
Yeah.
And we have three constructions. First, ablative of time, within which paucis diebus, paucis mensibus, inadverbial, telic predicates. Second one, intra plus accusative, intra viginti dies, intra annos decem, inadverbial, telic predicates. And accusative of duration, multos annos, per multos annos, four-verbal, telic predicates. Right, and going to Caesar, incredibili celeritate magno spatio paucis diebus, opus perfectum est. With incredible speed, a large stretch of cleared forest was completed in a few days. Yeah, paucis diebus is the ablative of time, and perficere, to complete, is the defining telling accomplishment verb. The ablative measures the span inside which completion occurs. Okay. And then we've got Plautus. Plautus intra vigentides pecunium reditorus est. Within 20 days he will repay the money. Intra plus accusative of time span. The repayment has a definite telos. Right? Either the money has been returned or it has not. Yeah, point to where it ends. Intra marks the upper bound on the interval before completion. Okay, so Caesar's forest clearance and Plautus' comic debt repayment are worlds apart in register, but they share the same spectral structure. Both describe a process that terminates in a bounded verifiable result. Those inadverbials, paucis diebus and intravigenti dies, are diagnostic for that structure. By the way, if we're going back, right, I'm thinking now that we have Algesanta as something which, on the one hand, got a duration. Yeah, you have to suffer it for some time. And also, it is supposed to be to come to its end. Right.
So, if we look at this example attentively, we'll see that telicity is actually buried in the verb aspectual grammar. Both verbs are italic. Both take accusatives of duration, so they do not have any endpoints, and in that sense they are italic, but we still have some sort of a contrast between telic and italic here. Algesanta is an aorist participle, and eudokimunta is a present participle. In ancient Greek participles, as far as I know, this contrast is primarily aspectual. The aorist gives a perfective view of the event, while the present gives an imperfective one. This is not the same as encoding telicity directly. So the contrast is basically between having suffered and being or enjoying good repute, not between inherently italic and inherently italic events.
No, I just think it is a more complicated meaning than just telic-italic opposition. Yeah, so we probably have to analyze the structure of Algesant meaning more in detail. Yeah, and look why and with what violation of what it takes oligochronon. Okay, so it has in itself properties. Lexical has properties to be italic.
I suppose.
Yeah, but in the context,
It's telic.
there is it's telic. Yeah, and this is a very interesting example. Actually, I didn't think it would be that interesting, but there's something to talk about here. I was supposed to show you this Cicero example, nam paucis diebus et in domum et in hortos paternos immigrabit. For a few days, he will move into both his father's house and his father's gardens. We've got the predicate immigrare, to move in, which is an achievement. Entry into a location is punctual, right? Paucis diebus measures the delay before the transition occurs. And this is the parallel to Greek andrahei kateste.
Yeah.
Cicero is needling Mark Antony by predicting his son's imminent takeover of property that rightly belongs to others.
Yeah.
The verb immigrabit describes an achievement. One either has or has not moved in. Yeah?
Yeah.
And Paucis diebus says the threshold moment will be crossed soon. Another Cicero would be, yeah, in asem quaestor prefectus sibi per multos annos admirabili quadam laude provincie prefuit. Having set out for Asia as quaestor, he governed the province there for very many years with admirable distinction. Per multos annos is accusative of duration. Praese provincie, to govern, is an activity with no telos. The governing could always continue. It has no natural stopping point. Yeah. Right now, so you can actually test right intra per multos annos provincie prefuit would be anomalous. Another Cicero, cum hic domicilium Romae multos annos haberet, professus est apud praetorem. Since he had been maintaining his residence in Rome for many years already, he registered before the praetor. And multos annos is accusative of duration. Domicilium habere, to have a domicile is a paradigm state. It's true at every moment within the interval. So the subinterval property holds here.
Yeah.
Right. Lucullus governed Asia for years. Archias lived in Rome for years. In both cases, the predicate could in principle go on indefinitely.
Yeah.
There is no event of governing or residing that, when completed, constitutes the governing or residing.
Yeah.
This is the essence of atelicity.
What did you say is the essence of atelicity?
Both those examples, this one and this one, because we have governing and we have residing, and there is no event of governing or residing that can be completed and so constitute the governing or residing. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So there is no event that is needed to make governing real, existing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not totally sure what you mean by that, but
Look, if you're going home, you've
Mhm.
got this home, I reached home. There is an event
Yeah.
that is needed to make this utterance, I reached home, true, right? You just get there. And if you are sinning, when you started sinning, you already make it true. I'm sinning. Yeah, the seeing predicate works already. So there is no event that is needed to be completed to make this sing predicate working. Okay? Does this make sense?
It sounds like you're saying that some verbs need to be completed by something in order to,
Telic.
yeah, but the other ones that don't need that
they
are
need
italic.
certain event. Italic do not need an event to be completed. If we are looking at this Cicero example, yeah, it's from Archaea passage, Cicero is arguing a case for citizenship. Long established domicile is the proof. And the four-adverbial multos eum annos is not just a stylistic flourish. Yeah, he needs that for as a legal substance.
Yeah.
So duration without terminus is exactly what residence requires. So he adds adverbials to underline the duration meaning.
Yes.
I think this must be it. I've got summary table here for you.
Yeah.
So it's telic or atelic and some morphosyntax. Yeah, for Greek and Latin. That covers it for inadverbials and for adverbials. And we have two more tests. Kate Kearns in the semantics textbook uploaded on Workflowy notes this third test, the construction, it took NP for X to V. Yeah? Like the inadverbial. It selects telic predicates and expresses event duration for accomplishments and delay for achievements. Event duration for accomplishments, delay for achievements.
Yes.
But this adds a nuance. With achievements, the take time construction suggests effort or expectancy during the interval before the event. Thus, it took a minute for him to recognize her, implies that during that minute he was trying to remember her.
Yeah.
This is distinguishable from the simple temporal after meaning he recognized her.
Yes.
Right, which carries no such implication.
Yeah.
This okay. I guess when you work with psychological verbs, this might be indeed important, relevant as a distinction. Right. Take time construction and Kearns introduces the subinterval property as an analysis of Telicity rather than a diagnostic test. I mean, think about it as not a diagnostic test. Yeah, but this is the thing where intuitions are generally clear-cut. Right? Also, it is a conceptual foundation for understanding the progressive aspect. So here's the definition. The subinterval property. A predicate P has the subinterval property if and only if, whenever P holds over an interval I, P also holds over every subinterval of I. Right. So, italic predicates do have this property.
Yeah.
Italic predicates don't.
Yeah.
Which property is that?
Subinterval property. Subinterval property over here. Yeah.
Okay. The telic has the subinterval?
Atelic.
Okay.
And telic lack it. Okay, but because it is about some period of time where this predicate works and sub intervals inside this
So
period of
what
time.
the subinterval property is, it took 60 seconds or it took a minute?
It takes some time, okay? Jones is eating a sandwich, right? It's a period of time. He started eating this sandwich some time ago. He is eating a sandwich and he will stop in some future, right? Um, and
So where's the sub interval?
okay, the whole period that Jones is eating a sandwich. Yeah, let's call it L alpha. And there is a shorter period during this period while Jones was eating the sandwich. Yeah. Well, not this one, but this one. But it is inside the period when Jones was eating the sandwich. And during this shorter period, Jones is still eating a sandwich.
So the period between the beginning and the end?
Okay, we have start and we have finish, right, of this eating sandwich thing.
Yeah.
Right? And inside this period, whatever period, sub-interval, yeah, sub-period you would choose, Jones will be still eating his sandwich.
Okay.
Meanwhile, if you take a telic thing, reach the house, for example. If you take a shorter period which doesn't coincide with the finishing point, with the end point, it wouldn't hold true. Yeah, if you haven't reached your house, you haven't reached it.
Okay.
And here there is this really famous and interesting imperfective paradox. Yeah, Jones is sinning implies, this is the sign for imply, implies that Jones has sung, okay?
Yeah.
But Jones is building a shed does not imply that he has built it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Jones's sinning is atelic. The process is itself a sub-instance of the event type.
Yeah.
And Jones is building a shed is telic because the interior of the process is not a completed event.
Yeah.
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 So the progressive form of a telic predicate denotes the internal process phase only, not the completion. So
Yes.
when we are using progressive form, it denotes only the internal process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, actually, it has consequences for how we interpret imperfective aspect in ancient languages. Let's take the Greek imperfect. Εγγράφεν επίστολεν, he was writing a letter. This does not entail that the letter was ever completed, precisely because of the imperfective paradox.
But it does imply that he was right, that he wrote something.
It implies that he had been writing it. He was in the process up to a certain moment, but it doesn't
Yeah.
imply that he wrote this letter.
That he finished writing. Yeah.
He finished writing, right? So now we come to telicity and boundedness. and argument structure, in fact. So there is a very strict distinction between telicity and boundedness. Yeah, telicity is a property of having a natural finishing point expressed by the verb and its arguments. Boundedness is more general. Any endpoint, whether inherent or externally imposed, makes the predicate bounded. For example, consider Jones sang madrigals for 2 hours. The predicate sang madrigals is italic. There is no inherent finishing point to madrigal singing. But the expression sang madrigals for 2 hours is bounded because the adverbial imposes a temporal limit from outside.
Yes.
Though all telic predicates are bounded.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Yes.
Right. Okay. If I look at the examples, bounded but not telic. The sun shone all day. Yeah? It is bounded by adverbial, but not telic. He saw patients between 10 and 3. Again, it's bounded by adverbial. Let's get back to this question.
Yeah.
Is this the same kind of event or not?
I don't really understand the boundedness versus telicity.
Yeah, we'll get back there, but first I want to hear your answer. What do you think? כתב את הספר. Wrote, or was writing, wrote a letter.
But katav is missing it's missing arguments by itself.
So in itself, it's a process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to have arguments to be the same kind of event.
To be an accomplishment.
Yeah.
So this is a process activity.
Yeah.
And this is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And this is the difference. Now, let's get back to boundedness versus telicity. Okay, first of all, every telic predicate is bounded. Yeah?
Okay.
So, we're talking atelic predicates, which might be bounded or not bounded.
Atelic predicates might be bounded.
They might be bounded.
Yeah.
They might be bounded not by their lexical meaning, not the inner structure of the meaning, but by its arguments and adverbials around it.
Okay, what would be an example of that?
Right. John ran. Yeah, or John was running. And John ran to the store. The argument turns it to being bounded. It's a telic verb in itself, but it's got telicity and it is bounded. But it's
didn't
not.
Didn't you say all telic verbs are bounded?
I mean, it's got telos. It's got the ending point. It does not turn the verb itself into a telic verb. Okay, so in its inner structure of meaning, it's an atelic verb. when you take just the verb, when you look into its lexical meaning, its lexical structure, yeah, it's an italic verb, but it's getting the telos when you add to the store. To the store, it's telos.
Okay.
And then it becomes bounded. It's still italic as a verb, but it becomes bounded. It's got a telos, and we have Telicity.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Now, how much time do we have for recursion? 2 minutes. Oh dear. So, next time, what we're going to do on Monday. On Monday, we're going to talk about coercion and aspectual sensitivity. And I think we'll make a quiz, yeah, on terms that were mentioned during the first 4 lectures. Yeah, just look through presentations.
Yeah.
Everything is there.
Yeah.
So you'll be given an example, and you'll be asked to analyze the example.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll ask. I don't think I should ask definitions from you, but still look through it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
I think this is it, more or less.
Yeah.